All righty, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is March 15th, and believe it or not, Oklahoma secured a commitment over the last couple days in the 2025 class. We would have assumed that the 2024 class would have picked up one before the 25, but at the end of the day, we will take a quarterback commitment in Kevin Sperry. So we're going to be talking about Kevin Sperry. We're going to be talking about a few top tens that Oklahoma made for Logan Thomas and Marquis Lyman. And then we're going to be talking some crystal balls that have come in for Bryant Westco and Kaden Durham and what their impacts are and what kind of implications and maybe a commitment could be on the horizon for one or two or maybe both of them. So before we get into it, just want to say we appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. Also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. As you can tell, Brandon has graduated from Space Force. He is going to be with us every show now. Congratulations and welcome back to normalcy. How do you feel?
Thanks, Buds. It's great to be back, man. Just trying to figure out what to do now. I'm starting school in August, so I'm just kind of hanging out then, looking for part-time work. If anybody knows of anything good, because everything online sucks. Bowling and hitting the gym.
Bowling and hitting the gym. You just need to have someone get you a job at a bowling alley.
That's just might apply and be a front desk worker at AMF Sheridan Lanes.
Sounds good. All right. So Oklahoma picked up a commitment from 2025 quarterback Kevin Sperry, 6'1", 200-pound kid out of Prosper, Texas. I know Jose and I talked about him a little bit when he got his offer, and then a crystal ball came in really quickly for him in favor of Oklahoma. From what it seems like from reading, he was on a visit at Texas. Jeff Levy called him, offered him, came back home, and then called Jeff Levy and said, I'm locked in. I'm a Sooner after seeing Austin, which I don't blame him. So, Brandon, since you haven't talked about him, I would like to start with you. What are your thoughts on Kevin Sperry? Obviously, it's always good to get your quarterback to lead the class. He's jumping on board early, and to me, it looks like Brent Venables is open to the idea of taking commitments really early now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like he led off with, like we all predicted here, we would get a commitment in the 2025 class before we would get a 2024 commit. That's pretty exciting. It's cool. Me and Hose were actually playing Xbox last night when I was on Twitter, and we're like, holy shit, Kevin Sperry just committed. And it was crazy because it's so far away. This kid's gonna have so much time to get better and progress his game. Be committed for a long time. He's a dual threat kid. It seems to be something that all these quarterbacks that Jeff Levy is recruiting has in common. Jackson Arnold obviously can do both. Mike Hawkins, who looks pretty good for the 2024 class, can do both. And now Kevin Sperry. Dude rushed for about 650 yards, I think 7 touchdowns, while also passing for 1,500 yards as a sophomore. Pretty good numbers there. And like I said, he's got 2 years to grow, playing in a pretty tough level of high school football in Texas. There's a lot to like about this kid. There's a lot to like about him committing early. I did not know that recruiting story about him being at Texas and then calling Jeff Levy back and saying, I'm coming to Oklahoma. That automatically means he's going to be good. There's a lot to like about this kid, and hopefully he continues to progress and get better. And by the time he gets to campus, he'll be geared up, ready to roll.
I am a fan of his. I do think he definitely has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback in his class by the time the rankings are all done. There's so much development in his game, so much room for him to grow that we're not even seeing him scratching the surface at this point. He's only a sophomore. Dude barely got his driver's license probably a week ago or whatever it was. I don't know when he turned 16, but we talked about that last time. Like, he's still so young, and he has a very similar game to Jackson Arnold. I actually watched a little bit more of his tape earlier today when I had some free time, and his release, it's going to sound crazy, but it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers. When he has a little bit of room in the pocket, it's very quick, short. He doesn't really have a wide base, which I'm not going to pretend like I'm a quarterback guru, but it just looks like Aaron Rodgers when he throws a ball. So it would not surprise me if that's a guy he tries to emulate, and that's not a bad guy to try to mimic when you're trying to, as a quarterback, probably a future Hall of Famer, future New York Jet, potentially, who knows, by the time this video is released, we'll see. But I mean, this is definitely a good building block. We'll see what the status is for like how his recruitment is going to affect others in 2025. But I'm curious to see if that's going to at all change. Michael Hawkins, does that make any difference in his decision? Because now he knows there's someone there already to potentially take his spot. Assuming that he were to be Jackson's backup for a couple of years, come in, and then now you got a guy in Kevin Sperry who is very talented in his own right as well, to take your spot 1 year after the year after you, or maybe even just elapse you.
Not only the 2025 class too, I feel like him being committed this early on, he could also help, right away. He can start recruiting 2024 kids. There's a lot he can do, I think.
I agree. I mean, he can sell on the idea of like, listen, we already got Jackson Arnold. It seems like we're going to get Mike Hawkins. I'm here. Wide receivers, running backs, come play here. Tight ends. I mean, we're going to be scoring a lot of points, whether it's me or Hawkins or Arnold throwing to you. There's a lot of opportunity to score a ton of points. And it's interesting now because, Lincoln Riley was always recruiting every other year. Now it seems like we're recruiting every year. And one would assume that we're going to get Michael Hawkins as well. So, 23, 24, and 20, actually 22, 23, 24, and 25, they're all going to be 4 or 5 stars in through there. And
from a depth standpoint, we should be really, really good at quarterback now. And guys like Davis Bevel, as great as he might be, might never play for Oklahoma again. Or, backups to Davis Bevel level capability might not ever see the field for OU again.
Thank God.
But looking at Kevin Sperry's offer list right now, he's got offers from Tennessee, Texas A&M, Oregon, Florida State. So it's not just like Oklahoma's just identified someone like a diamond in the rough here. This kid is ascending. He played well at the Under Armour camp this past weekend. He held his own. Obviously, he is still young. He is class of 25, so he is still in the spring semester of his sophomore year. There is a lot of time, and I think it's good to lock him down, and we'll see what kind of impacts he's got. But at the end of the day, it seems like 2025 is open for commitments at this point.
Let's hope it sticks too, because that's a long ass time for a 16-year-old. There's a lot that's going to change in these next 2 years of high school for him. Let's hope it sticks.
That is a fair point, because Lebby, he's probably going to be rumored every offseason between now and the time Kevin gets to campus for jobs elsewhere, head coaching jobs or OCs. And he was rumored to be the OC for Bama. We'll see what happens next offseason. But a lot of time, like you mentioned. And then how, if at all, does that affect, I know you guys mentioned 2024. I just don't know how much it really affects in 2024, because he is younger. These guys are making decisions. They have different friend groups. They're in different classes. I don't know.
They're only a year older than him, the 2024 class. It's not like he's super younger than them. He can hop in there and start doing some work.
Do you think that Venables is maybe starting to adjust his recruiting a little bit, being more open to the idea of recruit or get him to commit as early as possible, rather than what has been over the last year, where push him to take more visits to make sure he's 100% in?
I kind of feel it's on a case-by-case basis. It seemed like Kevin Sperry's been waiting on this offer, and he's been to Oklahoma so many times, and it seemed like as soon as he offered, I think he's open to it, but I think he also knows these kids, who's truly all in and who's kind of well, I'm all in right now. I don't know. I feel like it's you just have to know the kid.
That's fair. I'd love to. We might need to get Parker or Drum back on just to see what their thoughts are in the situation.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Either way, good to see. Never would have thought a 25 kid would hop on board before 24, but hey, it is what it is, and hopefully
we all predicted that.
True. That's true. We talked about that.
Worst kept secret of all time.
Do you think we're going to have a 2026 commit before 2024?
Maybe.
Probably. Let's just fill out the 25 and 26 class first. All we need in the 2024 class is Williams Noweri, David Stone, and Nigel Smith. The rest of the class doesn't matter.
And Kobe Black.
Kobe Black would be cool.
Zadavian Sims would be cool, but all the once you get those big three, the rest of it is all just would be cool. It doesn't really matter. We can win with those three.
Yeah.
I said Todd Bates needs to just take a vacation. If we can land those three guys, everybody in the defensive line room, just take a vacation. You're done for the 2024 class. Come back for spring ball. Relax.
Yeah, relax. Anyway, so we can move on. Let's shift gears back to the 2024 class. I know we should be covering the 26 class, but we'll cover 24 for the rest of the episode. So Logan Thomas, 6'3", 210-pound edge out of Katy, Texas. He's a 2024 4-star. He put out a top 10 earlier on Tuesday, and that top 10 included Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Arizona, USC, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, and Colorado. So he put out a top 10. Obviously, Oklahoma made it. He's been on campus multiple times. And Jose, I wanted to get your thoughts on him. No crystal balls have been entered in one way or another. Top 10, it doesn't look like he's nearing a decision. And being from Katy, Texas, from our favorite high school, from David Hicks, there's some hesitancy there with Texas A&M looming. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like Paytow is really just a pipeline going straight to A&M at the moment because of David Hicks, because of Stanford last year. And they are just significantly closer. I'm sure that, other schools, namely Oklahoma as well, will get an opportunity. It just seems at this moment tough to imagine a kid from that high school going anywhere else. Obviously, there's, I think, Petaway. I can't remember his first name, and I don't want to mispronounce it if I do have it correct. 2025 corner goes to that school right now, so hopefully things are going to start shifting in OU's direction. But Logan's very talented edge. That would also be another thing. Like, how much is Oklahoma how hard will they recruit him? How much does it depend on the standing with these other guys like David Zone and Nigel Smith, Williams Nwaneri? Like, they're going after so many big time defensive linemen that you don't know where Logan could fit in that equation. And it could be one kind of like last year with Marcus Deal, where they recruited him for a while, backed off because they had good feelings about others, and then try to come back there at the end.
Obviously, I hope Oklahoma gets him because I love this position. There's anywhere on the defensive line, offensive line is obviously the best. I think the most fun spots to recruit. But I mentioned it, Jose mentioned it. The big three is what we're after. You want Williams Nwaneri, you want David Stone, you want Nigel Smith. If you get all three of those guys, Nigel Smith to me, or not Nigel Smith. I forgot his name already. Logan Thomas. Watching his film, he's a slightly less versatile and a smaller version of Nigel Smith. He plays the edge kind of like Nigel does, but Nigel can play both edge and inside. Logan Thomas, his stats jump off the page. He's got 16 tackles for loss, 9 sacks last season. He's very quick at the edge spot. He can beat tackles. He can make a lot of plays. He's a guy that you definitely want. He would be the mashed potatoes to a steak dinner, though. Adding those big three. But obviously, I want him. I want all the defensive line, offensive line we can get, but get the big three first.
And you also have to, not only talking about Williams Nwaneri, you also have like TJ Lindsay, who's from Bryant, Arkansas. You have Dacius Brinkley is there, looming. So there's a lot of potential candidates that could fill this, and Jayshon Ross, I think, as well. He's from the Kansas City area. There's a ton of players that seem like that they're genuinely interested, and I think it's going to start turning into a numbers game. I think Oklahoma will obviously take a heavier defensive line class in this class, but it's just how many. You got the Lumen brothers, the Ty Clean, Ty Cool Hill, but it seems like those two guys are a little bit down the priority chart if they can still go land these other guys. So I think Oklahoma's going to have no trouble filling out their defensive line in this class. It's just a matter of who. And I hope it's Logan Thomas because I think he's extremely talented. Yes, Logan. But I guess we'll see. It's just my expectations aren't very high. And if Oklahoma's not going to land all the defensive linemen that they're going after, they can hit at a 75% clip. That's pretty good. You're muted, Jose.
My bad. Logan plays more like a linebacker that can rush the passer rather than the guys that you just named where they're more pass rushers. You know, they're defensive linemen that are meant to stay up front and not really drop back. So that could be a reason why Oklahoma might target him a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, he still had 9 sacks last year.
But he drops back a bit. Like he does come back and play linebacker, and his size as well. When you start comparing him to Nigel Smith, he is small.
He's a lot smaller. Yeah, I mean he's 210, 215 versus Nigel Smith being 240, whatever.
Yeah. So either way, I mean, making a top 10 is always great, but it seems like that there is this recruitment's going to be probably dragging out to at least this summer and maybe even into this fall. So moving on, going on the offensive side of the ball, Marquis Easley. I don't think we've ever talked about him on this show. He put Oklahoma in his top 10, I believe. And his top 10 is Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri, Penn State, Michigan, USC, Florida State, and Texas A&M. He's 6'7", 300 pounds. He's a 2024 4-star out of the state of Illinois. And Oklahoma's going up in that Midwest region. Being put up there, Tennessee and Georgia currently are slated for official visits. From me doing some research, it seems like Oklahoma's in a really good spot and could potentially be getting an official visit soon because of Coach B. I think Coach B is going to have his pick of the litter as far as offensive linemen. It's kind of just like DeMarco Murray right now with the running back room. It seems like we're going to have no issues filling that offensive line, especially with Schmitty back. It seems like we're getting that toughness and physicality back. And I think a lot of offensive and defensive linemen enjoy that rather than doing yoga and whatnot. Brandon, what do you think?
I think Coach B is the best in the land. I don't know much about Marquis yet. There's not much on his 24/7 profile other than he also plays basketball. So he's obviously an athletic kid for being as big as he is, but Coach B is the best there is, man. If he can get a kid that's athletic, 6'7", 300, he can mold you into quite a player. I've said it before with offensive linemen. There's really not a better place in the country to play, I think, and that's not me being biased. Like Coach B, his resume speaks for itself. He puts dudes in the leagues. He puts quality starters in the league. He puts Super Bowl players in the league. I think if you want to play at the next level, it's hard to beat Oklahoma as far as the offensive line goes. I'd like to see Coach B get this kid and work his magic on him.
I agree. He's a large human being, and we were actually talking about it before the show. Who also plays basketball, according to his 247 profile. Don't blame him. He is an enormous human being, so just moves everyone around with his just enormous ass, probably just backing people down in the post. So I mean, multi-athlete or multi-sport kid, something that we see is becoming a trend in just recruiting overall with his staff. And with being a basketball player, and I just made a joke about just him being much bigger and overpowering kids, but he's got to be, if he's good at all at playing basketball, he has to have decent footwork. And I'm sure that helps a lot when it comes to playing football and the footwork that's necessary in playing offensive line.
He probably plays point guard.
If he doesn't, he's got elite footwork.
Like Kyrie level handles at 6'7", 300. Can you imagine that shit? I'd fly out to Illinois and watch him.
He'd be
Victor Wembanyama's biggest nightmare. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. So, again, that's someone that we haven't talked about a whole lot, but it's always good to make a top 10 and something that Oklahoma's obviously seems to be in a pretty good spot as it stands today. But being up in Illinois, it doesn't seem like, off the top of my head, I'm sure we have a few players that we've had in recent memory from the state of Illinois, but no one jumps off the top of my head unless one of you guys. So we're staying in that Midwest region and trying to pull some of those kids into Norman. So moving on, we're going to be talking about Bryant Westco. 247 Texas 247 beat writer Mike Roach put in a bunch of crystal balls one way or another, whether it's Oklahoma, Texas, other schools, and for a lot of Texas athletes. And one of the kids is Bryant Westco. He received a crystal ball in favor of Oklahoma. He's got 3 now in favor of Oklahoma. He's 6'2", 180 pounds. He's a 2024 4-star, number 85 overall, and number 13 wide receiver in the class. from Midlothian, Texas. I think that's how you say it. I'm not 100% sure, but it's just south of Dallas. And he has been to
Midlothian?
Midlothian. He's been to Oklahoma multiple times. Seems like Oklahoma's obviously in a really good spot here. He competes in track and field. He's a Texas qualifier, a regional qualifier for track and field, and high jump and long jump and things like that. As a junior last year, he had 58 catches for 1,160 yards and 17 touchdowns. It seems like the comparison for him is CeeDee Lamb. Jose, what do you think?
Those are big shoes to fill, especially if you're potentially going to be a wide receiver at Oklahoma. If he can live up to that expectation, he is going to make a lot of fans very, very happy. He competes for the ball well. I think that's what stands out to me the most. Can high point the ball, isn't afraid of making physical catches. And when you're 6'2", you would hope that you see that a lot in high school. That's not the case all the time. And he catches with his hands. Another big plus for him. Again, being a guy that probably has to compete for balls all the time. High school, you could probably get away with body catching because most kids are going to be smaller than you, but he's using his hands well, athletic, physical, and again, points to the fact that Oklahoma's going after these bigger guys. I know we talked about I think his name was Zion Riggins or Rag.
Well,
who was it?
Zion Kearney.
Kearney, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
There was a 5'11" receiver that we talked about not that long ago.
I think it was Raggins, but I don't remember his first name.
Raggins.
Tim Riggins.
Which he is a speedster, and I think that's great to his game. He was very different from what Oklahoma's been targeting at the wide receiver spot, and I think Emmett Jones sees him. I know I'm kind of going off track here, but sees him kind of as more of a specialist guy when it comes to just his absolute raw speed. And a guy like Bryant Westco is going to be a little bit more of what we're going to see under Emmett Jones and Jeff Lebby and how they're going to run their offense in the passing game.
Bryant Westco is a athletic freak, as you mentioned. He does track. He does long jump, triple jump. I don't even know what the triple jump is, to be honest with you, but it sounds like it's a lot of jumping. He's athletic. He's very athletic. Sister plays soccer at Oklahoma, which I think is a fun fact to point out. And like we talked about before the show, that soccer connection is helping us. It helped with Peyton Bowen. Hopefully it's helping out here with Bryant Westco. So it's kind of cool. But he's a guy that you mentioned, from 1,160 yards on 58 catches. I think that comes out to about a 20 yards per catch, which is obviously my favorite stat when it comes to running backs and receivers. He checks that list. And 17 touchdown catches on 58 catches. So almost a third of his receptions went for touchdowns. So that just speaks to his big playability, I think. So there's a lot to like about Bryant Westco. We mentioned the quarterbacks that he's going to have during his time at Oklahoma. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Jackson Arnold and for sure Kevin Sperry, with Mike Hawkins likely on board. So it's going to be a pretty good competition there, I think, after Arnold. So he's going to have he's going to have high quality quarterback play. The offensive line's always there at Oklahoma. I think this kid could be special if he ends up being 75% of what CeeDee Lamb was, because that's who you guys use as a comparison. I think a lot of Oklahoma fans would be pretty happy with 75% of CeeDee Lamb. I know I would. I think CeeDee Lamb is the best receiver in the history of OU football. I know the stats don't point to that, but I think just what CeeDee was able to do on the field, I think he's the best receiver at OU ever. So if this kid could be 75% of CeeDee Lamb, I'll take it.
Yeah, and part of the reason why I'm comparing him is just based off of stats and his stature. Westco is 6'2", 180. Coming out of high school, CeeDee was 6'2.5", 172. We've talked about Westco's stats: 58 catches for 1,160 and 17 touchdowns. CeeDee as a junior, 57 catches, 1,082 yards and 11 touchdowns. He took a tremendous jump his senior year. So it seems like potentially Westco could make that big jump as well. So they put up similar stats in their junior year, similar stature from that Dallas-Fort Worth region. It is high praise and a really lofty comparison. But at the end of the day, if he makes that big step his senior year, he could become a 5-star if he puts together a 2,000-yard kind of season. coming up. So staying on the offensive side, Oklahoma also received a crystal ball in favor of them for 2024 4-star running back Kaden Durham from Duncanville, Texas. Oklahoma's had their name all over Duncanville, and that's one of the schools that they obviously target and they recruit heavily from. Kaden Durham received a crystal ball in favor of Oklahoma from Mike Roach, and then I believe also Parker Thune. We've talked about Durham quite a bit. 210 carries, 1,960 yards, 36 rushing touchdowns. He caught almost 100 yards and one extra touchdown as a junior. Elite play. He's a little bit smaller at 5'9", but there's nothing wrong with that as a running back. Brandon, what do you think?
So again, I look at the yards per carry thing. I think to carry the ball 210 times and still average about 10 yards a carry, I think it comes out to like 9.3 something. That's pretty damn good. And then to have 36 touchdowns on 210 touches, I think that comes out to about every 5.9 carries he's scoring a touchdown. So that's pretty good. That's high level ability right there. Big playability. He's one of my favorite running backs in the class. I think James Peoples still remains my favorite running back in this class, a guy that Oklahoma sits in a good spot with. But Kaden Durham would not be a bad pick. I think in an ideal world to me, you get James Peoples and really anybody else to go with him, kind of like we're going to have with Gavin Sawchuk and Javante Barnes. I think these 1-2 punches are going to continue to be a thing, like the Samaje Joe Mixon days. We haven't really had an elite level duo since those two, and I think those days are coming back. I think what Gavin Sawchuk showed in the bowl game, what Javante Barnes showed all season, I think we can look forward to a 1-2 punch next season from them. And then with the kids that we're going to get in the 24 class, whether it be Kaden Durham and someone else or James People, hopefully with someone else, that's going to continue. Kaden Durham can obviously play. His numbers are very good. Let's hope he commits.
Very talented running back. The fact that he has that many carries in a season is crazy. Duncanville, I know they do rely on him quite a bit for the offensive side of the ball. So a guy that, isn't afraid of taking workhorse, bell cow back kind of carries, number of carries. I don't know how much more we can say about DeMarco Murray and how great he's been on the recruiting front. I know that going through the comment section, someone said I was crazy for thinking that if DeMarco wants an OC job, he can probably get one sooner rather than later. But I firmly believe that. Both in recruiting, he's become one of the best running back recruiters in the nation. And coaching-wise, if you look at his running backs since he's arrived to Oklahoma, he's had very back and forth rooms when it comes to level of talent, especially when you look at the ratings coming out of high school. And they've gone on to be very good running backs. Some of them got drafted, some of them didn't. Either way, at the college level, they produced at a high level and were big contributors to the offense.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, DeMarco Murray, it's going to be a race to, commitment once, or it's going to be a race for the second running back to commit once the first one hops on board. And I don't think it'll be too much longer, especially if Hawkins can jump on board. What is he scheduled? April 8th, I believe it is. So as long as he jumps on board, I think this class is going to start really rolling. And I know they've got a big recruiting weekend coming up on the 25th, I believe that is. So it's coming up here pretty soon. But that's all I've got. You guys have any final thoughts? Or if not, then Brandon, do you want to do the individual challenge?
Yeah, we'll just roll right into it. Obviously, Kevin Sperry is the first commitment we've had since the 23 class, and he happens to be in the class of 25. What are your Kevin Sperry thoughts? We've obviously opened the show with talking about him. We think he's going to be a pretty special quarterback. Hopefully sticks it out at Oklahoma, sticks that whole commitment, and actually becomes a Sooner. There's a lot that can change, but I think Kevin Sperry can be good. I think we all think he can be really good. He's the latest commitment that we have. So what are your thoughts on 2025 quarterback Kevin Sperry?
It should be interesting. It's always good to get the leader in the class early, and that's extra early. So more power to him, and glad to have him on board. with us. So made it this far, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. Remember, if you're already subscribed, when you like and you comment and do Brandon's individual challenge, it helps us out a lot on there. And we'll catch you guys on Friday.